Congratulations to the Cronulla Sharks. They are through to the 2024 preliminary final, a sea of black, white and blue at Allianz Stadium. They indeed made the journey from the Shire to watch their team break this finals hoodoo, and they have booked a grand final qualifier against the Panthers at Accor Stadium next week. Sean Johnson, Greg Alexander and very proud former Sharky Michael Ennis. They've been a top four team all year. Now they are down to the last four, the final four that we have going around in this competition, and are 80 minutes away from a grand final. Yeah,
it was the first half demolition, and it was just a response that Craig Fitzgibbon, any side would have wanted to put in place after going down to Amy Park last week. 37 points to 10 defeat down there against the minor premiers, but they came back home to Allianz Stadium tonight in front of a huge sea of black, white and blue fans. And boy, didn't they turn it on, particularly Trindle. It was an absolutely sensational performance from the Cronulla 5'8", particularly in the opening 40 minutes. He was absolutely brilliant, laid on 2 tries and also scored another 2 himself to get out to that 24-0 lead. And for Cronulla, all the noise this week about 7 straight losses in a final, well, the only way out of it was to win, and win they have. And so they march on now to play Penrith. So a great result, and the community will be right behind them.
Sean, to see all your former teammates now enjoying this moment, and we heard about all the criticisms and the pressure and the response that you wanted to see from them, and the first effort, that first 40 minutes, will go down as the best they've had on the record books for Cronulla in a final.
Yeah, definitely. I think, you know, Mick touched on it, Tricky's fingerprints all over it, but again, like across the park, we spoke about it pre-game, they needed 13 starters and then the bench to come on and make an impact, and they did. They gave themselves a buffer, and it's always hard at half-time when you've gone in so hot to come out and start that way. It just is, you know, that you've got the target on your back, so you can imagine the chat across the hallway. You know, what Toddy was saying to the Cowboys, you know, just go out to be proud of the 40 minutes you deliver, take the result out of it type mentality, and then they come out and put the Sharks to the sword. So they held on, you know, two moments for me, 2 moments. That try right on half-time,
yeah, that
really hurt. And then at the time probably wouldn't have seemed like much, but that error from the dropout, it just took the sail out of the wind in the comeback. So really happy for Cronulla. Obviously, yeah, a little bit of me up still. So, yeah, happy for the boys.
I guess they extinguished whatever they were thinking about the finals hoodoo. They extinguished that in the first 30 minutes of that game. Like, they led 18-0. They wouldn't have been thinking about the history and what they've gone through. They would have been just thinking, what do we need to do in the second half? Well, they scored another try right at the death, which certainly helped, didn't it? The 38th minute try, which gave them a 24-0 lead, was a massive boost. And even though they would have realised that the Cowboys had something in them in the second half, but the Sharks were easily, I thought, the better side tonight.
The Cowboys always threaten that comeback. They just don't know when they're beaten. They'll always try something. But as Sean said, it was Drinkwater's error from the goal line dropout to kick out on the full. That felt like it took a bit of a sting out of North Queensland.
Definitely, it certainly did. When Val scored just after half-time, you thought, oh, OK, there's a glimmer of hope here, and you're right, Fon. They've just got so many individuals in their lineup that can hurt you and create something out of nothing. But again, I said at half-time, their defensive deficiencies this year, particularly through periods of the game, like there's 50, 60 minutes of a contest where the Cowboys can look as good as any side in the competition, but then they lose and have like moments of lose concentration. And defensively tonight, they started with a bang. Obviously all week, you know, in a final you talk about starting fast and winning that physical battle early. They did that. They did that in the first 5 minutes, and then all of a sudden Cronulla started to trade sets. Ashley Klein's put his whistle away, ball in play. It just went set for set for set. And the fitness of Cronulla through the forward pack exposed their deficiencies, and they piled on points, and they piled them on quickly. And in the end, we saw multiple chances in that second half where the Cowboys were able to create a line break or a half chance, and through the pressure of the scoreboard, threw a pass that they maybe normally wouldn't throw. Play 3 flick pass, or the Drinkwater going, you know, for the dropout that he went for. They were all rolls of the dice that they had to in a sudden death semi-final. But in the end, it was the start from the Sharks and the defensive deficiencies that caught up with the Cowboys.
50 missed tackles from the Cowboys.
It's just, you don't win a final missing 50 tackles. Yeah. And there was, you know, big chunks. When the Sharks controlled the ball, I thought the lack of fitness from the Cowboys was exposed tonight.
Yeah,
I thought there was so many unfit players out there. I thought the Cowboys did well to really limit the Sharks to 26 points. Katoa scored a try, it was pulled back. Royce Hunt scored a try, it was pulled back. I thought the Sharks were easily the best side out there, even though the Cowboys got themselves back into it and got close and got to 18 points. I just think the Sharks owned the game. Second half got a little bit, dicey for them, but not really. I still think the Sharks were in total control. Trindle controlled things. Yeah. Nico played well. They all did their jobs. And then there was those that stood up. Toby Rudolph was outstanding.
Yeah.
And that's a game that Toby needs to continue to put in if they're going to go further in the competition.
I thought Trindle was outstanding. In particular, his maturity around his kicking game. Like, if you look at some of the week 1 performances, Nathan Cleary on the opening night of the finals, his kicking game was absolutely relentless. And then you go down and watch Melbourne and the way that they suffocated Cronulla down there. Daly Cherry Evans playing off the back foot the other day on Sunday. And in return, Matt Burton and how good he was with his kicking game. I thought Trindle, Sean, was excellent tonight.
It was the difference between the two sides. And that stat there of 4 forced dropouts.
Yeah.
Ultimately, they got what they were looking for off it with Scotty Drinkwater going for the all or nothing play. He was close to coming up with it, don't get me wrong, but they get the right result from that. But Tricky kicking early, kicking early multiple times and just turning the screws, applying that pressure, and you see like teams just slowly break, and then what happens off the back of that kicking game? You can run on last play, like it opens up other lanes, other avenues to execute. So, yeah, like this kick here, brilliant. Like drifting on the wrong side of the field for a right foot kicker. Awesome to see him execute in those moments.
Yeah, I thought the attitude of the Sharks was completely different in terms of their kicking too. They put up high ball, they'd contest it, whereas the Cowboys didn't. The Cowboys didn't want to know about it. There was one time there where they ran through with a little bit of pressure and Katoa dropped the ball and they scored a try off the back of it. But the attitude of the kicking games and what they did off the back of it was completely different. And the Sharks were superior, far superior in that tonight.
I think looking at the Cowboys, defensively, we've spoken about the holes in them, defensively. And so Cronulla needed to spend time in their half. They needed to apply pressure with their kicking game, put them in tough positions. They did that. And then they also needed to be able to be getting inside the Cowboys' half to be able to threaten with their attack. Their outside backs carried the ball for over 700 metres tonight. Over 700 metres, the outside backs of Cronulla. I thought Kyle Iro was absolutely outstanding, not only defensively tonight, but the work he did out of the backfield, carrying the footy free side. His first final tonight, Kale. Yeah. His first final series this season. Boy.
And 20 tackle busts between the outside backs, the back five. And they average 660 every week anyway with their run meters. They give so much momentum and they're so powerful. Such a brilliant mechanical arm to have off the back of Cronulla.
Takes so much pressure off your middle forwards. Penrith have built this model where they just rely on their back five, or all of them, just dig in and carry the footy, and it allows your forward pack to be able to catch their breath and then return serve and invest themselves defensively through that middle of the field. And Brandy's spoken about the fitness and I've spoken about the deficiencies of the Cowboys. It comes through their middle. And Cronulla, through their outside backs, just chipped away with their outside backs carrying with power and footwork through the middle. And in the end, they found the holes that we've seen exposed at different stages through the year.
Yeah, I'd love to see a stat, or if there is a stat, on how many change of angles Cronulla had.
Yeah.
It was ridiculous. Yeah. They were just ruthless with change of angles, bringing boys back through the middle. They're OBs, but then also the back rowers.
Yeah, back rowers were good, weren't they?
They were. Their leg speed back through the middle.
Yeah.
Imagine, like, you get up, you think the ball's gone away, all of a sudden you got to get up again.
Yeah.
You find a shoulder, you lose that ruck, and it's just a snowball effect, and then all of a sudden, these stats around the OBs of Cronulla, they're starting to blow up. The fatigue around the middle of the Cowboys starts to blow up. And it's just so hard to slow down and stop at times. So, man, well done to Cronulla for sticking to that. Because that's what they went back to cement the game at the end there as well.
100 runs between their back five. 100 runs.
Massive.
Which is incredible. So average 20 per player.
Sean, you mentioned the bench before kick-off and how important that is for Cronulla and their game plan. What about the cannonball of Talakai off the bench? You notice him immediately when he's out there.
He got on, I said, yep, Sif's there. Sif is there. His first carry, I think this was actually his first carry, gave a little hip to Tommy Dearden and then sort of powered through. But he just does everything with such good intent. You know, he's so powerful, he's so strong, and when he backs it up with his aggression, like with his mindset, it was exactly what they needed. You know, he definitely push in here, being able to poke his nose through the line, get down, play the ball quick. They're the plays that you want from your bench, you know, to come on, add a spark, add a point of difference.
So Fitzy pulled the right rein, without a doubt. Putting Dan Atkinson back to 18th man, having three middles on the bench, and then Siffa, who can play middle, play centre. If you need, fill a spot, back row centre. If he's the utility, he becomes that. But he's damaging in the middle. So I think Fitzy got the team right. They all played well. We're talking about all of them. All of them played well, and you know. If you're going to win a finals game, you need everyone playing well.
If Sifa Talakai is your utility moving forward, I'm glad I retired. That is mental to think about.
Well, if you think of what Craig said pre-game to Jake Duke, where he said it wasn't just Nico. Yes, he's been under the spotlight this week, but everyone took accountability, and so everyone responded. Like that, they needed 17 players tonight. You saw that. For 80 minutes to have been out and beat the Cowboys. So when the Cowboys started to throw punches in the second half, they relied on their bench. Then they relied their starters to come back onto the field. And it worked tonight. And it's going to need to be at its absolute premium next week. You know, that's the challenge. You know, the Cowboys, and that's been the knock on, you know, a lot of the sides that didn't finish in the top two. Like everyone knows what Penrith and Melbourne are going to bring, but the sides below that have had some inconsistencies at different stages through the year. Whilst they've been brilliant, they've had moments or periods of games where they've had lapses, and they're not going to get that opportunity next week. So, you know, whilst it was a vital improvement tonight from the Cronulla Sharks, that then goes to a whole new level next week against Penrith.
How much can they shift the dial between tonight and next week against the Panthers?
Yeah, it's an interesting takeaway if you think about what Cronulla does take out of this game. Like, they obviously got a bit of a prod after what they tossed up last week in Melbourne, and that first 40 minutes they came out red hot. And 13 blokes, supported by the bench, came out and did a job. But then you can also sort of give them another little prod with patches throughout that second half. They didn't play the perfect 80 minutes, but they got a balance of, okay, boys, we know what it feels like. We got to feel that groove again for the first time in a while, you know. But then we can also be reminded, like, hey, you know, like, let's not take anything for granted. Nothing's given, you know. So let's look where we can work, where we can build, and we take that and fix that for next week. And it'll be interesting to see how they come out next week off the back of that.
Craig Fitzgibbon, his messaging has been really clear through this finals. All we've earned is that we finished in the top four. That's the only thing we can take away from this season. Now that they've put together a victorious semi-final up against the Cowboys, who always tried to keep it in a contest, what do you think that shift is for their confidence and as they step into what seems to be mission impossible up against the three-time defending premiers?
Enormous confidence-wise, absolutely. And again, they will, you know, when they got to 18-0 tonight, they're not thinking about the history of what's gone on before and the fact that they were bundled out twice over the last few years and just couldn't win a finals game. They're not thinking of that, but that will come into their reckoning as they move forward this week. They'll think, we're on top of the world. Like, confidence is a great thing in sport. And, you know, if they believe they can do it, and tonight's win will certainly help them believe that they can do the job.
Yeah, I think in particular...
The hoodoo has been broken.